What's up, everybody, and welcome to Blue Turnip's Bad Podcast about good music. My name's Kyle,
I'm Brian.
and we are two-thirds of the rock band Blue Turnip. You can find our music Spotify, Apple Music, wherever music is sold. We have an EP, Songs from the Cellar. Check it out if you want to. But we've been doing this podcast, Brian and I, very excitedly talking through each of our top 5 albums from all the years from 2000 up until 2020. And today we got a great show for you. We are talking about 2003.
Yes, and what a year it was. I think this is my favorite year in music history. So I'm
Oh,
very, very excited to get into these.
excellent. Yeah, I know we talked about in the last show that like this '03 to '06, we're very excited. I'd say '05 is probably my number one favorite year of all time. We're right in the thick of
Yeah, man, the best. I agree with you. These are the golden years right here.
it. Well, excellent. If you're tuning in to us for the first time, just to let you know how the show is going to go. So, Brian and I are each going to count down our top 5 albums going back and forth a little later on in the episode. But before that, we like to do a little bit of talking about some other good music and some Blue Turnip stuff every now and then. And today we're doing a special edition, our second edition of the segment Blue Turnip Song Breakdowns, where we give you a sort of behind the scenes look to one of the songs on our EP, Songs from the Cellar. And today, I'm really excited to talk about this one. It's probably my favorite song on the EP, track number 2, A Lack of Sleep, I'd Say. And Brian, I'm going to turn this one over to you because this song is your baby.
That's it is my baby. You guys were nice enough to let me put one song on the EP, and this is the one I chose. So thanks for saying you like it.
Love it, man.
Appreciate it. So yeah, I'll just do like a little quick background on this one first. Um, I was trying to remember, and I think I wrote this song in 2013 or 2014. I remember it was my sophomore year in college because it was the first year I lived in an apartment, so I could have like music stuff, which was awesome. But I'd play like really quietly because I didn't want to disturb the neighbors. But yeah, I wrote this song in my sophomore year apartment. Um, and it was kind of interesting for me because I write a lot of like sad, dark, like mellow songs. And my wife's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine." She's like, "You need to write like a love song." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea." So like I was like, enough with this like depressing emo stuff. I'm like, I'm gonna write just like a simple pop song, which I'd never done before. So just started doing like a simple chord progression. And yeah, it kind of took on from there. And I knew I wanted to write just like a cheesy poppy love song. So that was the goal that I set out when I recorded this song. And speaking of cheesy, like the lyrics are kind of goofy. I wrote the song for my wife, obviously. Um, and we had this song growing up. I don't know if you remember it. Like our song in high school was "Inevitable" by the band Anne Berlin.
Mm.
And I 100% stole a line from that, uh, just because like it was the first love song I wrote, and I was like, this would be cool to incorporate this. But in the Anne Berlin song, it talked like I forget the exact line, uh, something about breaking the clocks and staying in this moment forever. And I wrote a line very similar to that. So I worked around that lyrically. But basically, the song's about being so in love with this person that you want to be awake and with them in this moment with them uh, all the time. So yeah, that's what the song is about. Give Amberlyn the shout out for stealing their lyrics. I don't think I can get in trouble for that.
Not an homage. No, no. I'll
Yeah.
pause while we're paused though. You mentioned the words like cheesy and goofy. I don't have those feelings about this one. I
Oh,
feel
you
like
don't?
no, I love I think the chord progression is great. I think it's got like kind of a mode shift in the chorus. It's really cool. Really catches your ear, and I like the
Yeah.
lyrics. They're super sweet. I wouldn't describe them as cheesy. I mean, it's super heartfelt, man. I think you did a really great
Oh,
job.
thanks, dude. Yeah. Yeah, maybe cheesy was a bad word, but thanks. You made it sound way better. But the interesting thing for me about this song was I'd never played drums on my own song before. And I found that to be extremely challenging for whatever reason. Like I had a really hard time coming up with this drum part. I actually originally played it on Cajon when I sent it to you and Andy to play along with. But just like speaking as a drummer, I think this song is a really good example for me. Something I like to do is to play something different for each section of a song. So for this one, it starts with like a weird, I don't know, just it's not really a drum beat. It gets into the actual groove, not until the second verse, just to change things up a little, give it a new feel. And then there's a halftime in the chorus that I knew I wanted to do. So I had a really fun time with the drums on this one, and I think it helps keep the song going. But you and Andy really kept the song going because I sent it to you on my phone, and I said, "Do what you want with this," because I don't know how to play anything else. So I passed it on to you guys, and you brought it on home. You want to talk about like what that experience was like when I sent that song and how you went about tackling it?
Yeah, sure, man. So I had we played it live yet at that point, or had we not played it live yet? I don't think we had.
I don't think we had, no.
No, I think you're right because remember we played a couple of your songs at that show. We played at the local in Boone, but I don't think it was. I don't think Lack of Sleep was one of them. But so yeah, like it was kind of my first when you sent it. It was sort of my first time hearing it, and I was like, "This song's sweet." And at the time that you sent it to me, I had just found and I was just listening to on repeat over and over and over again the first Jukebox the Ghost album, Let Live and Let Ghosts. And there's a song on there, I think it's track 8. It's called Lighting Myself on Fire. And it doesn't like if you listen to that and your song side by side, you wouldn't be like, oh, wow, these are really similar. But like the vibe that I was getting from it was just like the kind of piano driven and like very upbeat and fun. And what Jukebox the Ghost does in that song is, as the verses go on, like you said, they're a band that does something like different every time there's a change, or like you said, you were doing with the drums. And they have these little bitty like counter melodies in the verses against the vocals. Like there's these little piano
Mhm.
lines and guitar lines that like kind of run in the background. And like you said, like sort of with your inspiration, I was like, I want to do something like that with this song. Like it's such a fun song, and I want to have those little like tidbits and back and forths and something different for each verse. And so that was kind of what I started doing with the guitar is I just started playing little lines and coming up with little melodies that could just like go in the little gaps between your vocals in the verses.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah, it's really cool.
we added the background vocals in one of the verses as well, and just started like putting in all those little layers of those like the power pop music that I'm always so influenced by.
Yeah.
Um, and then
No, you
Andy
got.
came. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say Andy came in and dropped like an amazing bass line.
Yeah.
Just like the first one he came up with too. It just fits so well. It lined up really good with the kick drum and like the groove. Yeah, and like it's a short song. It's under 3 minutes. It has no bridge, so we knew we wanted to keep it really interesting, like you were saying. So that's why there's all this funky stuff in between, to really keep it going. And those little guitar licks in the verses are cool. You guys came up with some really cool like Beatlesque background vocals, like where you say the line before I sing the actual line. Cool stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot going on in this little song. Like so, there's even some slide guitar in the background. There's actually even background vocals over the entire chorus. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really full. I think because we talked about last time recording Guardian Angel, and you and Andy had already laid down the drums, bass, and vocals for this one, and the keyboards. You'd done the keyboard part
Mhm.
also. You should mention that as well. Yeah, this is the you play the keyboards on this song.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I totally you weren't there the day I recorded the keyboards. I totally botched it. But Ricky Rod, our sound guy, just like took out all the bad notes. I was like, I don't want to do it again, man. I'm like, just take out the bad ones.
Yeah,
Drummer
we
life.
mentioned Ricky before, but in case anybody's listening for the first time, Bomb House Studios in Morganton, North Carolina. Ricky Rodriguez, such an awesome studio engineer, made it sound
Yeah.
great, super awesome to work
Oh, he
with.
did. And I'm not a good vocalist. And he actually did a tutorial on this song about reverb on vocals because he reverbed me up. Because yeah, it had to be done. No auto tune though, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember we came to the studio that morning and you guys had pretty much finished the song, and I'd heard the mix of your guys' tracks and the layers and stuff, and that's what I'd been practicing with. And I just grabbed one of Ricky's Paul Reed Smith guitars off the wall and hooked it up
Yeah.
to my pedals. And I think I laid down like 11 guitar tracks in a row. It was like, all right, now we're gonna do this little bit, and then this little bit on top of it, and this little bit, and
Uh-huh.
this little bit. And it was like an hour, and we just laid down because we knew so well what was gonna go in there.
Mhm.
And I was just asking you about everything that I'm doing. I was like, is that tone okay? Like, do you like that distortion? Do you like it? And you're like, yeah, I like that.
I'm pretty easygoing because like I said, you guys, like I can strum some chords, and that's what I did in this song, play some piano chords, but I can't add that cool filler like lead guitar stuff. And you guys did a really good job. And Blue Turnip, we like to like in general leave it open for the other band members to interpret their selves. And yeah, this is a really good example of that. Just taking a simple demo and turning it into a song just by passing it off. So thank you guys for making it come together. Couldn't have done it
Oh
without the
man.
band.
Like I said,
So
it's definitely like if I only listen to one song from the EP, this is the one I listen to. Lack of Sleep, I'd say.
well, thanks, man. That
Yeah.
means a lot. And like a funny side note, we've played the song live twice, and like no offense, but you and Andy can't play drums, so it never sounds like I wanted to. I was so pissed off. We need like a guest drummer for this one.
Yeah, somebody just to fill in for this one song would be great.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I know you and I have seen like the old Yes when we saw Yes live when they were all like 80 years old or whatever. And Alan White was like back there on the drums, but they had
Yeah.
like the real drummer like in the shadows off to the side that was actually
Yeah.
playing all this stuff. That's what we can get, yeah, just for like one
Yeah,
song for
dude.
that, just like the guy in the corner back there.
Yeah, just pay him like $20 a gig or whatever. We actually we played it live twice. Andy played drums once, and our friend Ray Edmonds played drums on it once.
That's
And that was
right.
actually before I even had a drum part for it. I think I don't remember how he played it, but I thought it was cool.
Yeah,
He's a really good drummer.
I'd forgotten about it until you mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't. I don't think we have a recording of that one either, because sometimes we record our live stuff, but I don't think we did record that one.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Um,
But yeah, I think that's a sufficient enough breakdown.
little
Hopefully people want to go check it out.
Yeah, we'll put a definitely if you want to check it out, we'll put a link in the description to the YouTube video for that one. Um, and we haven't mentioned his name yet, but if you go to the YouTube video, you'll see our awesome cover art by Jason Hawkins, super
Mhm.
talented digital artist that we basically came to him with a really vague idea and he turned it into a really, really cool album cover. Really great, kind of like muted colors, and uh, came up with an awesome logo for us. And yeah, so Jason Hawkins, shout out
Yeah,
there.
big shout out. Really cool art.
Well, sweet. Yeah, A Lack of Sleep, I'd say. Track 2 on the Blue Turnip EP, Songs from the Root Cellar.
Yeah, man, it's a
Thanks.
banger.
Yeah, thanks for breaking that one down for us, Brian.
Yeah, I hope that was all right.
Well, great. Well, let's transition into the year 2003. So, as usual, before we get into our top 5 countdown, I'm going to rattle off a handful of honorable mentions. So, as Brian mentioned, we are in a really, really fantastic year of music. There's a lot of difficult albums to choose from. I have quite a few honorable mentions, way more than I have in episodes past. I'm just going to rapid fire my way through these. Don't let my speed undercut how great these albums are. So check these out if you're into them. So honorable mentions from 2003. No particular order. We've got World Service by Delirious. Just a super awesome, like kind of modern rock soundy Christian record. The A side of it is just non-stop winners. The first like 5 or 6 songs in a row are all so awesome. World Service by Delirious. Check it out. This is a real deep track, The Rise of Modern Simulation by Earthsuit. Brian, I know you like that one. This is kind of
I love it.
a track of like demos and B-sides from Earthsuit, more or less. not that it's like underdone. There's some like really, really awesome songs, especially the first 3 or 4 songs are really like full blown kind of finished work, but lots of cool stuff on there. I don't know. You got anything to say about that one? I know you like that one too.
Yeah, I love it. If anybody knows the band Mute Math, it's bits and pieces of those guys like before they were Mute Math. Really, really cool album. It's got some like hip hop kind of stuff on it, electronic. It's really weird. Like it's kind of far out, but we grew up listening to that one. I don't know how. I don't even think it's like available anywhere in the world. But I know you can't find it on Spotify, but
That's true.
try to find it somewhere, and
Yeah,
you won't regret it. It's pretty cool.
exactly. It's worth it. Yeah, Rise of Modern Simulation by Earthsuit. Blues Deluxe by Joe Bonamassa. This is just a really, really awesome blues album. Joe Bonamassa, great guitarist, and the title track, Blues Deluxe, cover of that old Jeff Beck tune. I don't know if Jeff Beck group wrote it, but that famous recording, he does an awesome job with that one, and he's just such a good guitarist. Great if you're into some blues. The P.O.D. album, Payable on Death. I like this. This is probably my second favorite P.O.D. album. They kind of left the rap behind on this one and went a little more like kind of just straight up like hard rock. But it works really well. There's some really, really great songs in this one. Very, very fun listen. This one was right on the edge of making my countdown. I decided after much laborious thought to give it the boot into the honorable mentions stack. 2 lefts don't make a right, but 3 do by Reliant K. I've talked about Reliant K in our 2001 episode. Super fun band. This is another super fun album. Yeah, just really, really fun punk pop. Much more polished than their second album. Really starting to hone their sound. It's a good one. Grace Like Rain by Todd Agnew. I know, Brian, you and I have so many great memories of this one. Blue Turnip played several covers from this one.
Yep.
Still, I lead worship at church, and I still do several songs from this record from time to time. Yeah, very, it stands out among worship records from this time period because of how unique and different it sounded. So really cool record there. Epica by Camelot. We got a little prog metal, a little progressive metal going on there. It's a concept album, a very like heady, high concept album that's sort of a retelling of Faust, and there's angels and afterlife and magic and mysticism, and but the music is like pretty much straight up like jam and metal, like rock your face off kind of stuff. And the last like 4 or 5 songs in a row especially are just so awesome. It ends really, really strong. And I have 2 more honorable mentions, but I'm not going to mention them. I'm not going to mention my mentions because they are numbers 5 and 4 on your countdown. So I don't want to get to those. I don't want to spoil them. But right before we start your countdown, I do want to mention for our 2002 episode, I was not at my house, so I didn't have this shirt. I was really bummed, but my number 1 album from 2002 was Snow by Spock's Beard, and I just wanted to shout out that I do have this excellent Snow album cover from the Morse Fest where they played it in 2016 that I got to go to. So quick shout out, quick blast from the past for 2002 before we go back into 2003. Well, all right. Whew, deep breath. That was a lot of honorable mentions. Hope you dig those tunes if you like them. Brian, I'm going to turn it over to you for your number 5 album of 2003.
Yeah, man. And real quick, speaking of honorable mentions, I didn't do honorable mentions like because I'm OCD when I whittled down my list of 5 and just deleted everything else. I was like, you want to do an honorable mention segment? I'm like, nah, man. I'm like, you can do it. I deleted everything. But two of your top 5 are my honorable mentions this week for sure. So I just wanted to mention that too, but
nice.
I don't want to spoil those either.
Samesies, both sides.
Yeah. But as I said, 2003, just like the greatest year in music history for me. I just, these are 5 of my favorite bands and 5 probably my favorite album by all of these bands. Like it's so weird how that worked out like this. Anyways, number 5 from 2003, I've got Room on Fire by The Strokes. It is their sophomore release, coming off of Is This It? And to me, it's just like, Is This It? But taken up a notch. Like it's just like a better version almost.
Mm,
Um, and it's just it's still their sound. Like they didn't change in sound much from their first to their second album. Just better crafted songs, a little more maturity in them. You could tell they were growing really well as a band. This is a quick album, it's 33 minutes, and it flies by. It's a breeze to listen to. Short, catchy songs, a lot of cool guitar solos. Just some good old rock and roll, man. I mean, I love the Strokes, and I think this is the best album they ever put out.
mm.
And I know it's an honorable mention for you.
Yeah, it's an awesome album, man. I think you described it really well, and I really like the shortness of it because there's no fat on this record.
Mm-hmm.
It's 11 really solid songs. You know, if you're gonna know one from this album, you're gonna know Reptilia.
Yep.
That was a big hit, and it was in one of the Guitar Hero games, which were obviously a big part of our me and yours childhood.
Yeah.
But this one comes out of the gates. I mean, like those first three songs in a row are really awesome. Like if you're
Yeah.
not captivated by those, like I don't really know what you're looking for in music.
Yeah.
They have a very raw sound, but it
Mm-hmm.
works really well for them. Sometimes I'm not crazy about the rawness, but with their songwriting and their style of music, I really like it.
Yeah.
Um,
It's got a great flow too. And that probably has to do with the length of it, but like every song just bops on through. Like they're quick paced rock songs. Like there's no dull moments on this one.
mm.
Um like do you have any? I know I've got a few favorite tracks. Do you got any? The first three you mentioned?
I mentioned the first three, yeah, especially Whatever Happened to Automatic Stop. If I was going to pick one more, I think I would pick You Talk Way Too Much.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Good stuff.
really good one. What about you, man?
Whatever happened. Such a strong opening track. Automatic Stop, maybe my favorite one. I love the way the guitars work together in that one.
Mm,
And I really like the last two tracks, The End Has No End and I Can't Win.
mm.
So pretty much we named all of them.
Yeah. The other two or whatever we mentioned, they suck. No, I'm
Yeah.
just
Hilarious.
yeah, man.
Yeah, man. But yeah, that's my number five. And like it would be higher if it was any other year, but it's just that year. So there you
Yeah,
have it.
I know. And we if we missed, I think it was 2001 that we mentioned the other one, right?
That
Uh,
sounds right.
I think so.
Yeah, 2001.
And we talked a little bit about like Cesar Casablancas, his voice, and like how iconic that is to their sound. And just wanted to mention that because I feel like it's tough to talk about the Strokes without mentioning like his
Mhm.
voice and that little bit of like distortion that they throw on it. A lot of times that vocal effect works
Yeah.
really well. Very well produced band. Like I don't know if that was them or a producer or what that like really helped them hone that sound that when you hear it you're just like, oh wow, that's the Strokes. Like I know that
Yeah, it's so
immediately.
unique. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool thing about them. Yeah. All right, dude. I'll let you get to your number five.
All right, awesome. Well, my number five is a guy that I've mentioned in honorable mentions before, Jamie Cullum, and it's his album 20 something. This is a great album. My wife and I actually listened to it this morning, and it had been a few months since I listened to this one, and every song that came on, we were like, oh yeah, we're like, man, this one's so good. But it's pretty much like a straight up modern jazz record. He's got a really unique voice, not maybe the voice that you'd imagine singing like a lot of jazz standards, but a very talented singer, very talented pianist and arranger as well. It's a 14 song album. Five of them are originals, and the rest are covers of mostly old standards. But he's got I think one or two songs from the 60s and 70s in there as well. Um, yeah, just some of the covers. Like he does a really like a couple really beautiful ones. What a Difference a Day Made. That's the opening track. Gorgeous cover of that. Blame It on My Youth. It's like you like melt into that one. Such an awesome, beautiful cover. Jimi Hendrix, The Wind Cries Mary. He does. Piano based and with some horns in there. Really cool recording of that song. But the track that solidifies this album is like truly great is the title track. Track 4, it's called 20 something. Uh, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best songs of the past 20 years.
Wow.
It's songcraft wise, it reminds me of like in college when I was studying classical music. It reminds me of like the art songs that like Schubert and Schumann used to write. Those like these little like 2 to 4 minute pieces that are just like so crammed with like art. It's just like holy smokes! Like how did you get all that into 3.5 minutes? And it just like kind of perfectly captures the experience of what it's like to sort of be in your early to mid 20s and just to be kind of in that like post college like, oh, what am I doing with my life, like what's going on, I have all these passions but like I also kind of need to make money and blah blah blah. um and my wife, she would say it so beautifully. She had such a great quote about it this morning. She said like it's such a well contained piece of art that you could just kind of listen to it over and over again, just a really well put together song.
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah.
And that's what you said, one of your favorite songs of the past 20 years. Like a song that good is good enough to put an album in your top five. You just need to have that one song.
Yeah, I
Like
would
that's a
I would
big
say
deal.
so. Yeah, I mean, and I got into him a little later. Like I didn't really know about him like in the early 2000s when he first kind of got started. It was in college when I first started listening to his music. And so I was kind of at that age, like in my early 20s. And when I first heard that song, it like almost brought a tear to my eye. I was like, this is exactly how I feel. It's perfectly describing.
Gosh,
But yeah, can't recommend that song or this album high enough. It's yeah, really talented dude, very cool music.
awesome. Dig it, man. Should I bounce into my number four here?
Yeah, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. My number four album from 2003 is Get Born by Jet. And this is their debut album. And oh, what a debut it was. I love Jet. I think they're the best modern, just like in your face rock band
Mm,
that there is. They just write the best freaking rock songs. They're so fun to listen to, really good riffs, really cool like vocals because they use several different singers in their band. And I'm a sucker for the first one. Love every album, but this one's definitely my favorite. Uh like one of the best debut albums from like any band ever, I think.
mm.
I love it. And it's 13. Let me pull it up. Yeah, it's 13 songs. Um, and like they're all I like all of them. They're just all just good rock songs. And they've got some mellow ones in between, like some really pretty songs, like Look What You've Done, was a really big hit for them. Um, and yeah, man, they just like they got good riffs,
Mm.
like almost like a better version of ACDC. But I love rock and roll. Like I always wanted to just like playing drums in a rock and roll band, super fun. This is like you listen to Jet and you're like, this is rock and roll. Like these dudes are always wasted. No doubt in my mind, just like having the best time. And it's really sad for me that they were such a short-lived band
Mm.
because they were so good and they were really successful too. Um, but they didn't mess around on this one. Like such a solid debut.
Mm.
And I know it's an honorable mention on your list too. So
Yeah, it is, man. I think it's a really, really awesome record. It's a little, this word's going to sound negative, but it's not meaning to be. It's like a little schizophrenic in some ways, to where like it'll be back to back with the most like 70s style, like rip and put a smile on your face guitar solo, and then like all of a sudden like this really melancholy, like kind of
mhm,
mellow, like sort of haunting melody, and then like right back to like the hardcore, and then like back to something different, acoustic
yeah,
guitar, and it works really well. Like
it
it's it,
does.
it it really captures your attention for the album. I think my two favorites are probably two of the mellow ones that you mentioned. Look What You've Done already. Such a great one, and Radio Song is one of my other favorites from this album.
Yeah, I love Radio
Um,
Song.
but yeah, there's so many. Are You Gonna Be My Girl? Everybody knows that one. That's such a
Yeah, that
fun
was
song.
massive.
Um,
Um,
Get What You Need is a really good fun one. Get Me Out of Here. I love that one. That's one of my favorite ones.
yeah,
Uh,
I love keeping it rated G as always. Cold Hard B. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah, I saw you put that one on our playlist. And speaking of, if you want to hear the music, Brian and I always put together a selection of songs from the albums that we pick and throw them into both the Spotify and a YouTube playlist. Spotify playlist you can find in the description. The YouTube playlist we put in a card up in the corner there if you're watching on your computer. So yeah, if you're interested in these tunes or haven't heard them or want to revisit them, take a look at those Spotify or YouTube playlists.
Yep, and this playlist is obviously explicit, so you've been warned. Need to report this one to Spotify. It doesn't have the little E next to it.
I think
well, I guess you're allowed to drop the B bomb like on the radio. So I guess that's why it's not explicit.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's fine. I think our 2001 and 2002 playlists were explicit as well with Ben Folds and Audio Slave.
Yeah, you're right.
So we are rated M for mature.
G-rated podcast, X-rated playlist.
All right, man. Anything else about Jet or Get Born? It's a great record, great CD.
I don't think so. Like, I think I've explained how much I love it enough. So yeah.
And I'm allowed to say CD because it was 2003, and it was CD was what we got it on. Yeah,
I have it on CD. I have all 5 of my 2003 albums on CD.
Nice.
So, I? So old timey.
I only have 3 because one of them is really one of them I don't have, and one of them is really obscure. Dang,
dude,
bad times.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes since we're talking about CDs, like it's my number 2 pick, and I'm really excited to talk about that. So we'll get there in a little bit. But I tried to find the CD, and sometimes CDs are already getting more expensive. But if you find an obscure CD, it can be like outrageous. Like I mentioned Epica by Camelot before. I really liked that album, and I went looking for the CD. $600 on Amazon. Gosh. I was like, yeah, I'll download it.
Holy moly.
And my number 2 album was very similar. It was like $300. I was like, I can't do it, man.
Yeah. That Earthsuit album you mentioned too. I researched that one recently because I was curious about it, just because nobody knows about it. They only printed like several hundred copies of it or something like that. So that one's probably like a milli.
Yeah.
I think it's super rare. It's so weird that we have it. And I think we don't have it like in the right order, or like because we had it on a burned CD, didn't we?
Yeah, one of our friends burned it for us.
Anyways, yeah,
we'll track him down, see if he still has it.
Yeah. We'll buy it from him for like $5 and then sell it
for $3,000.
Yeah. That's business.
Nothing personal, Chris. All right, well, I'll kick it up with my number 4. So my number 4 album, I know, is one of your honorable mentions, Brian. Worldwide by Audio Adrenaline.
We're going worldwide.
And we both talked about Audio Adrenaline in 2001. Lift was on both of our lists. And this one was very close to being on both of our lists. In my opinion, if I'm being objective, this probably isn't my number 1 favorite Audio Adrenaline album, but as far as percentage of quality songs, this is probably the best Audio Adrenaline album in my opinion. I know you mentioned that Lift was probably what you felt like was your favorite. But just really, really great music on this one. They're classic, fun style. We mentioned in 2001 when we talked about Lift that Tyler Burkham was really kind of getting into more vocals, and it's probably about 50-50 on this album. The kind of raspy rock and roll Mark Stewart vocals and the more smooth and melodic Tyler Burkham vocals. And it works really well. But this one busts right out the gates. Worldwide one, best song on the album, first track, boom, boom. And I don't know, I can't remember if you were there or not, Brian. Were you there the year that we went to Winter Jam?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and that was the song they opened with, and the album wasn't out yet. We knew it was coming out that year, and they were like, we're starting with a new song, and we were like, this song's amazing.
Yeah, I remember that. That was awesome.
But yeah, I mean, sort of similar to Jet in some ways, in the sense that it's just like rock and roll, man. It's just like
Yeah.
fun rock and roll, and also similar to Jet, where there's a couple like really pretty songs just kind of sprinkled in there.
Hmm.
Pierced, track 5, really beautiful song. I'm pretty sure I
That's
put that on the
awesome.
playlist. Leaving 99, I'm pretty sure that's Audio Adrenaline's biggest hit of their like original lineup era. Um, yeah, really, really fun album. What, you got any favorites on this one, or anything you want to say about Worldwide?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking through it. It's probably my second favorite Audio Adrenaline album. This one came right after Lift. Like, I guess that was like my favorite time period for them. But no, I agree with everything you said. Um, and like Blue Turnip wise, to tie us into this, we've played a few of these songs live. We should cover Leaving 99,
Mm-hmm.
and we played Start a Fire,
Yep.
which is a live track on the last song on there. And we also played Worldwide too.
Yeah.
So we can cover like a third of the album.
Yeah. And
And that's because we loved it.
yeah, it's awesome. And even further than that, recorded a vocal CD with one of my friends, and we did Pierced
Oh yeah.
when I was in freshman year of high school, I think. If that sounds right.
Dude, I forgot about that.
If you can find that one out there, good luck. I can't even remember the title of that one.
It's
But
on a CD.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I'm sure.
that one's worth a lot of money.
I'm sure our mom has a copy of that one floating around in a
I think we
closet
used to have like
somewhere.
a stack of like 100 of them in the closet.
And Strong, we've done it at my church as worship leading a couple times. So I
Oh,
think like
sweet.
fully half of the songs on this record
Yeah,
we played before.
nice.
So
Yeah, it's a fun one.
yeah, it really is.
And it had a really good live DVD that came out that was released at the same time.
Yeah,
Uh it was one of my favorite live DVDs. We used to
it's
watch it a lot.
it's awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
it's super high energy because the crowd was so big, that outdoor venue, and they also
Yeah.
did. It's such a great set list. They play so much music throughout their discography. Really,
Super
really.
fun live band too,
Mm.
with like the cowbell solo and the thing they did from Back to the Future.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah.
In Church Punks, yep.
Yeah. And they played the riff from that Cake song, Short Skirt Long Jacket.
Nice. I forgot about that, man. Yeah, I need to watch
Yeah.
that DVD again.
I think I have that one laying around, as well as the Lift one that we talked about a couple weeks ago, or however long ago it was.
Well, next
But
time I
yeah.
come over, we're gonna have an Audio Adrenaline DVD festival.
Yeah, I know. We got all the Audio A DVDs. I have their Live from Hawaii one too.
That one's not quite as good because Mark's
That one's
voice, his
depressing.
voice is so gone. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like their last show ever.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, but Audio Adrenaline, I've talked about this in the past, so I'll talk about it again, which is one of my favorite bands of all time. All I used to listen to when I was young. Like, it was like the only band I listened to. So
Yeah.
special place in my heart for those guys.
Oh, for sure. And I'll mention, since I have alluded to it a couple times, my favorite Audio Adrenaline album is probably Bloom. I think that's
It's
90.
awesome.
I think that's 1996. So, but
Yeah.
pre our countdown years. But yeah, great one if you want to check that one out too.
Yeah, that one rocks.
Well, all right,
All
man.
right.
I'll turn it over to you for number 3. What you got?
Number 3. One of my favorite bands again. Have I said that enough yet? Absolution by Muse. It's a toss up for me whether this is my favorite Muse album or not. I won't spoil it because I've got one later on that's right up there. But Absolution is their third album. And like, I guess the way to describe it is, their first album was okay. It was like, all right, I can dig these guys. Their second album, that was called Showbiz. Their second album, Origin of Symmetry, was like a step up from that. It's like the more mature, like older brother, I guess. And then Absolution is like the most mature of them all. It like took they like, you could just see them evolving into this like amazing sound. Uh this really, really solid album. Still really heavy. They used to be a super heavy rock band, but better songs than their first two albums. Um, and Matt Bellamy is one of my favorite songwriters of all time, and they've evolved a lot. Now, if we're talking about old school Muse, which I consider their first 3 albums, I think this is their best. Um, it's a long album. It's almost an hour runtime, I think, but it's one of those where I like every song and it doesn't bother me that it's that long. Um, and it had a lot of really big hits for him, but I feel like this one slips through the cracks a lot because I know Origin of Symmetry was their like really, really big album for all the old school Muse fans. Um, but this one's the best, man. Like Muse fans are so funny. There's old school Muse fans and new school Muse fans who just like hate the old or hate the new. And then there's like me who likes all of it. But this one ranks right up there at the top for me. Um, mostly mostly heavy tracks, but there's a lot of really pretty songs in here. The title track, Sing for Absolution. Well, it's not technically a title track, but it's got the title in the track. Sing for Absolution, Falling Away with You, Blackout, Endlessly, all like really pretty, like melodic songs. And then you've got your like really heavy metal sounding songs. My favorite Muse song of all time is probably Stockholm Syndrome. It's just so freaking heavy. And I got to see him play it live. I've seen them live twice, and they played the second time I saw him, and like it blew my mind, dude.
Mm.
It's just like they're you forget how heavy they get. They're a rocking band. Just because their newer stuff's not as much rocking, but if you want to throw it back to some old school Muse, I'd highly recommend Absolution. Just always been my go-to for them. You
Nice.
got any
Yeah.
thoughts on this one?
I pulled it up on Spotify because I was curious to see like what I knew from this one, and I think the only song I know is "Sing for Absolution."
Really?
I don't think I know the other one, so I'll definitely have to give this one a listen. Because
Yeah.
you mentioned like there's kind of like two schools of Muse fans, and I definitely tend towards like they're more like back half of their discography when they sort of like tilted more towards the prog and a little bit away from like the heavier stuff from the early
Yeah.
days. But yeah, I know this was like because right after this was Black Holes and Revelations, right?
Yeah,
So
this
this
is their last like original sounding album.
yeah, I was gonna say this is like a
So
those two albums, big time transition albums for them. Yeah,
yeah,
so
oh for
yeah, I'll
sure.
have to check this one out.
Yeah. If I had to pick, well, I said Stockholm Syndrome is my favorite. But I really like the song Thoughts of a Dying Atheist is great. Time is Running Out is awesome. Really good chorus on that one. Yeah, just overall. Um, yeah, and I would definitely recommend checking it out because, like I said, it's like the best of their first three.
Hmm.
So yeah,
Nice. I'm excited
there
to
you
listen to
go.
it. I'll start with the songs on the playlist that you can find the link in the description of the video if you want to listen
That's
to
right.
it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Uh,
Well, cool, man. I'll kick it off with my number three. So my number three is "Who We Are Instead" by Jars of Clay, possibly as far away from Absolution by Muse as you could get stylistically.
yeah.
You talked in 2001 about a Radiohead album. I apologize, the title's slipping my mind. It wasn't Kid A. Which one was it?
Amnesiac.
Amnesiac. Thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it because I remember I said it wrong in that episode. So
Yeah. Good
I
times.
was like, anesthetic? Anesthesiologist?
Something like that.
But you mentioned that that was an album that really grew on you. It like
Yeah.
it took you some listens to kind of get that one. Who We
Hmm.
Are Instead by Jars of Clay. Jars of Clay was a band that you and I, our whole family really was very, very into like from the time that they came out. So we got this album as soon as it came out, and the first time I listened to it, I did not like it at all because it was a big sound change for them. Um, Went from like up until that point, like they'd been kind of like 90s, early 2000s, like in my opinion, a lot cooler than some of the other stuff from that era. But this one they went like full blown like down the Americana path. Like there's some yeah, I think when I saw them play this album when they live streamed this album, that was the word that they used was Americana. It kind of like runs the gambit of sort of like American folk music styles from blues to folk rock to yeah, like kind of that sort of vein of things. So just a very different sound for them, but it really really works. I mean, it's like once my ears kind of wrapped my head around what was going on with it. Um, I like couldn't get enough of it once I sort of got over like how different it was, if that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, this is an album where it's 13 tracks, and I think like 11 of them I really, really, really like. And yeah, yeah, I have so many memories with this album. Like I remember going to Myrtle Beach as a kid on vacation and like just having these songs stuck in my head and just singing Sunny Days by Jars of Clay everywhere we went in Myrtle Beach, and seeing them play live, and my wife is a huge fan, and we got to do a VIP at one show with them, and
That's right.
got to say hi and take their picture, and um, ask Charlie Lowell, their keyboardist, about the mystery words at the beginning of "Unforgetful You" from the
Oh
from their
yeah,
from their
yeah.
"If I Left the Zoo" album.
What a
uh,
great debate.
but my wife Katie, she wrote them. She wrote them all a card, and in it she wrote about the fourth song in this album, "Only Alive," which was like a big love song that Katie and I loved when we were dating, and they played at that show because of Katie's card. So like we got to see
No
them.
way.
Yeah, they were like, a fan gave us a card before the show, and like we weren't planning on playing this song, but we're gonna play it. And we were like, yes.
Dude, that's so sick. I know that's a cool feeling, dude. That's awesome.
And yeah, during the pandemic, we've talked about, well, I guess we're still in the pandemic, but hopefully it's coming to a close. Goodness gracious.
On the upswing.
But Jars of Clay did several live stream shows, and one of the ones they did was they played through this entire album in order from beginning to end, and that's always an awesome experience as a fan, getting to hear an album that you
Hmm.
love played all the way through live, even if you're not in that space. So yeah, Who We Are Instead, Jars of Clay, love the song.
Nice. Dig it, man. Uh, I remember having that one, but I don't think I ever listened to it much because if I left the zoo was always my go-to. But I always liked George Clay. They're great.
Yeah, I always waffle back and forth on whether Who We Are Instead or If I Left the Zoo is my favorite. They're definitely they're so different from each other, but they're for sure my top two Jars of Clays.
Yeah, nice, dude. All right. I'll hop onto my number two here, and it is what I consider a perfect album. Whoa. It is Transatlanticism by Death Cab for Cutie. One of my favorite bands. Speaking of live shows, I've seen them. I think they're tied for the bands I've seen the most times. Them and Portugal the Man, I've seen 5 or 6 times each. Me and my wife together are just like massive fans, and they come to North Carolina a lot, which is cool.
Mm.
But Transatlanticism, signature Death Cab, like it's one of those they have a very loyal fan base, and like everybody knows this is the best one.
Mm.
Like a lot of times you're like, oh yeah, like you don't want it to be your favorite because everybody else's favorite. Like you want to be different, but Transatlanticism is the best. The cool thing about this one is the flow. It's one of those albums that is an album. Like you
Mm.
gotta listen to it top to bottom. So much so that if you put it on a loop, the end of the last song goes into the beginning of the first song. So that's pretty cool.
That is cool.
Very like Pink Floyd, kind of like everything runs together kind of an album. And Death Cab's super interesting to me because I like hate their first three albums. They're like unlistenable. They're so bad. And then Transatlanticism comes out of nowhere, and you're like, whoa, they don't suck anymore. This is awesome. Like if I got into Death Cab later on in life, if somebody like introduced me to them when they first came out, I would just like thrown it in the trash. So I'm glad I found them later on. But Ben Gibbard has such an interesting songwriting style. Their songs aren't like traditionally written. Um, he's a really good lyricist, and if he's got something he wants to say, he'll kind of work the song around it in a way so there's not like repeated choruses. Sometimes there'll be a random bridge at the end of a song. So yeah, they're really interestingly constructed songs, which I like a lot just because it's something different to listen to. And shout out to their drummer Jason McGurr, uh, one of maybe my favorite drummer of all time. So underrated, just like nobody knows how good this guy is. and he brings these songs together so well as a drummer. In the opening track, "The New Year," that was their big hit from this one. I think a lot of people know that song. Listen to the drums on that one. It's pretty mind-boggling stuff. Like, I've been trying to play along with it for like a year, and it's so weird. And that just like goes to show you just like their song structures. Like every piece of it is just seems abnormal, but it all comes together so well. And these are just really cool, really unique songs. Almost kind of like some punk sounding stuff in here. A lot of nice mellow songs. Like I said, really good lyrics. Yeah, all around, love it. I honestly consider it a perfect album. I love every single song on this thing. Um, Highly recommend. 10 out of 10 stars, 5 out of 5 stars, whatever.
whatever amount of stars, it's all of them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's sweet, man. Well, you mentioned you gotten to see them live 5 or 6 times. Have you seen them get to play some stuff from this one?
I have, yeah. They actually, the show that we missed was the 10-year anniversary of this one. They played the whole thing. Would have loved to have seen it, but they've played the New Year a few times. We've seen them. They've played Title and Registration, The Sound of Settling, Tiny Vessels, Transatlantic System. Uh, a lot of them.
Mm.
Like, I think they know what the fans want. Like, and Ben Gibbard has publicly stated this is his favorite album he ever wrote as well.
Oh, nice.
So I think he kind of knew he was like on something good. Yeah, but it's great. And this time period from 2003 through like 2000, like there are 3 albums back to back to back there were my favorite.
Mm.
And they all kind of had a similar vibe to them. But just his songwriting is just it's so unique. It always interests me.
Nice.
So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, I always like to jab at you because it's funny.
Okay.
But I know you always were like not a huge prog fan, but you're like, this album like loops, like so you can listen to it over and over again. And the drums are weird timing and the songs are out of structure.
Yeah, whatever, dude.
Yeah, well, Death Cab for Cutie's not on the Prague websites though, so I think
Yeah, I don't think they would be.
You're off the hook on that one.
And this is another interesting thing about this one. Death Cab is like the ultimate indie band. They kind of are like the founders of the indie movement. They're like the biggest indie band ever. And another reason this album was so huge for them was because they had that huge indie following, and they inspired a lot of great artists to write their songs independently. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
I think they signed to Atlantic Records eventually.
Oh, so they went backwards.
But
they ended up signing to Atlantic.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So
cool, man. Great to hear about it. Death Cab for Cutie, Transatlanticism.
Yes, indeed.
That's a very prog rock album title too, I gotta say. So,
yeah, probably album cover too. Got like a crow like tangled up in some rope.
Exactly. Yeah, it pretty much sounds like 100%.
Yeah, it's prog. All
right. Well, speaking of prog, that's what I got going on for number 2. So I mentioned before that like when I started working on these lists, I got really worried that I was missing music, that there was something great out there that I hadn't heard before. So I started just diving into all these sources and listening to as much as I can. And I'm so glad I did, if for nothing else, that I found this album that I'd never, ever heard before. And now it's number 2 on my 2003 list, and I listen to it all the time. It's called Last Epic, and the band is ACT. That's A period, C period, T, no period. No period after the T. The band will not say what it stands for. So we'll never find out. But this album, Last Epic by ACT, it's kind of a funky concept album. Like, to talk about, it sounds kind of weird. It's basically, the album is about an apartment complex and different people who live there, but the apartment building is also a character. Like, the building itself is also a character, which sounds kind of weird, but like when you hear the songs, it's like, oh yeah, like it's not as weird as I thought it was. But this album busts out of the gates with 2 of the coolest songs that I've heard over the past year. Well, there's a short intro. There's a short intro with strings, with live strings. It's like 45 seconds long. And then the track 2, it's called Wailings from a Building. And track 3 is called Mr. Landlord. Mr. Landlord is one of the coolest songs that I've never heard before. It is so, so awesome. But I guess their sound, I'm not really talking about the way their music sounds. It's the Prog Archives described it as eclectic progressive rock, which means that there's like styles from enough or influences from enough different styles of music to where they don't exactly know what category to put it into. It's really heavy at times, very like kind of metal sounding guitars, but it also can even like go like fully to the other end of the spectrum. There's like some reggae stuff in there. There's some really pretty songs in there. There's some really Beatley songs in there. There's some Queen influence in there. So it's a little all over the place, but it's very, very cohesive to listen to all in a row. And the singer, they're a Swedish band, so like, you know, he sounds very Swedish, but once my American ears kind of got past his accent, great vocals, like wonderful, wonderful voice, really great range, super catchy melodies. Yeah, man, I can't say enough about this one. Last Epic by ACT. If you haven't heard it, check it out. One of the songs in the playlist, I put Wailings from a Building and Mr. Landlord in there. If you can listen to Mr. Landlord and not smile, like you're out of control, losing your mind.
Well, I'll have to listen to it because I've never heard of them. And like you tried to make Death Cab a prog band, I'll try to make them like not prog and prove to you that they actually sound like Coldplay or something.
It's I'll say you know, technically it's in the progressive rock family. It's much, in my opinion, it's much closer to probably power pop.
Okay.
It's you know, the songs are not like long dragged out songs. They write like 3-4 minute songs. It's not a super long album. It's a concept album, and you know, there's timing changes and genre changes and some big staples of the progressive genre that you know, all us proggies really love. But like the thing that pulls me in, you know, I like progressive artists because they're not afraid to do things that are different. But the thing
Oh,
that
for
really
sure.
draws me in about music, good music, is melodies and songcraft. And these guys just have that through the roof. This album is just it's something else. It's awesome.
Sweet. Sweet, man. All right. Let's scoot along to the old number one
Scoot.
and make a bold statement here. This is my favorite album of all time.
Woo.
Yeah. Like it's for real. Thought about it hard for like a day yesterday. Like, yeah, this is my favorite album of all time. I listen to it like once a week.
Wow.
And that is Shootin' Annie by Eels. My favorite band of all time, my favorite album by my favorite band. Makes sense why it's my favorite album of all time. And Shootin' Annie, according to frontman E, is a hootenanny with guns. So a little made up word there. Very uninteresting album cover. I'm looking at it. It just says Eels Shootin' Annie over black background. So they didn't work so hard on the album cover. And they didn't work so hard on the album either. They actually recorded it live in 2 weeks, wrote and recorded all the songs in 2 weeks. The album was actually made as for him, like mentally, to get a breather from this huge double album they did called Blinking Lights and Revelations. And he was just getting like frustrated with that. He said, let's get in the studio and record some live songs. Little did he know they would be the best songs that they ever wrote. It's amazing. And it blows my mind. They wrote such like great full songs in such a short amount of time. 13 songs on this thing that they busted out in a span of 2 weeks. And I'd say this album has their best catchiest songs, probably. Just good melodies, simple songs, obviously, because they kind of just cranked them out. But they had fun. Like you can tell they had fun making this thing. You could just feel the energy in the room, kind of a deal. And by no means is it a like, I think it's a perfect album. Speaking of just like, I love every song. but by no means it's a perfect album. Like you can hear some flaws in these songs because there's a live recording, and I really like that. It kind of gives you like a homey kind of a feel. You're like it's like you're sitting in the room with them, just like jamming along, you know. Like the mixes might not be perfect, but it just feels good to listen to. And I'm actually um the very last song on this album, Somebody Loves You, is the first song that my wife and I played for our son when he was born about 4 weeks ago. And I'm actually thinking about getting a tattoo with some
Oh,
song lyrics because that was a special moment for me. It was our first child, and played him one of my favorite songs when he was born. Um, but yeah, that's just like a little fun side note. And I believe I could be wrong, but I think if I get a tattoo, you might have to get one too, because we always said if somebody gets one, we'll get them together.
I know my wife got one. She got one like the word on her wrist right there,
Yeah,
Emmanuel, and she's talking about getting a second one with some song lyrics, like you said. And I said, if you get two, I'm gonna have to get one.
yeah, dude.
But yeah,
Now you
so
got all
hey,
kinds of
if
pressure.
you get one too, I know then the peers will be all around me, pressuring me from all
Yeah.
sides.
See, my wife has 6 tattoos, and our sister has a few.
Hmm.
So we're lacking, dude. We need to
That's
get
true.
tatted up.
They don't pressure us into it though. Paige and Julia, like they're just like they're cool
Yeah.
to like, they're not like you gotta get, because some people that have tattoos are like, get one right now, and you're
Yeah.
like,
And you get
what?
like addicted. Like you're gonna get addicted. We'll have face tattoos before you know it. Then we'll be famous.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the album. Um, like literally every song I love.
Mm.
The first song, All in Day's Work, cool rock song. Um, Saturday Morning, probably my favorite track on the album. Um, just like rock and roll, good chorus, funny lyrics, easy listening, easy to listen to. Really good mellow one, The Good Old Days, Restraining Order Blues, got some cool slide guitar. It's a good eclectic mix of songs, and it all works together really well because, like I said, they recorded it in a studio together live, so it's got a good flow to it for sure. But yep, it's my favorite album of all time, and I strongly suggest everyone in the world listen to it.
Yeah, man, I'll have to give it a list. I pulled up the track list while you were talking about it, and I only know once. "Dirty Girl" is the only song that I know from this album.
Yeah, and that's a great song.
So I'll have to listen to more of it.
Yeah, I also you need to check out the song Agony, the one right after it.
Mm-hmm.
It's got such a cool like guitar sound. I don't know how to explain it.
Sweet.
Check it.
Will do.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
What's your
Okay.
number
Yeah, I
one?
guess that leads me to my number one. So similarly to the past, so I felt bad. I showed my Spock's beard shirt over there for that I forgot to wear for 2002, but I've got a shirt on for 2003.
Woo!
My number one album from 2003. I know this is one that you love too. I think it ended up in your honorable mentions. We've
Yes.
got, if you're watching, "The Beautiful Letdown" by Switchfoot.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. A guitar in the bottom of the pool. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I think this is an album that a lot of people are very familiar with, and for good reason. It's an awesome album. And I learned a little bit about it. So, I mentioned Jars of Clay earlier, played Who We Are Instead all the way through during the pandemic. Switchfoot, in their, not their most recent live stream, but the one right before that, they played Beautiful Letdown in its entirety. They didn't play it in order, but they played all the songs, gave them really nice treatment. And they told some stories about it. And one of the stories that they told was they had just gotten signed to a really big label for this record, basically off the strength of their song "Dare You to Move" from the previous album, which was so popular, and they were recording it again for this album. And like in the very first show of the tour that they were playing with this new record label, they found out in the middle of the show that the label dropped them.
Huh.
And so they were like this close to like packing it in and just being like, we gave it our best shot. Like we thought this was like a really good like opportunity for us, and it's not working out. And we've been working so hard for these years. And but anyways, then they decided that like, no, like we've got these good songs in this, like let's go record them, and we're gonna do the best that we can with them. And thank goodness they did, because they're still cranking here in 2021. And Beautiful Letdown is such a great and important, iconic modern rock album. I mean, Meant to Live is probably one of the best rock singles of the past 20 years. I mean, you just never get tired of listening to that one. And This Is Your Life, such a great, I mean, there's so many songs on that album that were hits, and they were all over the TV and radio, and Adding to the Noise, Gone. Yeah, super, super, super fun to get to see them play this whole album live. I've seen Switchfoot live a couple times, and they play, you know, they always play Meant to Live and Dare You to Move at all their shows, but it was cool to get to see them play all the deep tracks from this one. And yeah, man, Switchfoot, I'm a big fan. They're probably like my second favorite band of all time. I love Switchfoot, so just can't get enough of their music, and Beautiful Let Down. It's a great one.
Agreed. It's my favorite Switchfoot album. You didn't mention More Than Fine. I think that's probably my favorite one on there. After listening to it again, but this one brings back memories for me. Just like, I don't know, 2003. We always talk about like what grade we were in, and I can't remember where we are now. Third grade, maybe.
Something like that. I don't
But
know.
anyways, I think I just have memories of like, because you had the CD.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you let me, I don't know if you remember this, you let me borrow it on my field trip to Washington, D.C. in 8th grade. I was like, can I borrow your CD? And I started listening to it over and over on that like 8-hour bus drive or whatever it was. So it just brings back good memories, man. It was such, like you said, it was such a big album for the time, and just really good songs. Like all of them. I like all of them.
Seriously,
I'm
yeah.
looking at the tracks. And
the
yeah,
title track's awesome. Really, like kind of, I mean, I'm pretty familiar with their discography, and I don't think they've ever put together a song that quite sounds like the song The Beautiful Letdown. It's got like a really special vibe to it. That bass line and all the production in the background and the keyboard layers, and
yeah, it's awesome, no doubt. And I see Spotify has the deluxe version. And I'm not a fan of deluxe stuff. I like the CD or the album to stop when it's supposed to stop. Dude, I don't know about you.
I 100% agree.
I hate it.
I would love to talk about that in more detail in our next episode. Let's make that our segment in our next episode. Talking about the shortcomings of deluxe versions of albums. Deluxe. Yes, we can. I think yes. Let's talk about that a lot. next time.
Sounds good.
Well, cool. So we have reached the end of our countdown. We'll recap it for you guys. So Brian's top 5 from the year 2003. Number 5, he had Room on Fire by The Strokes. Number 4, Get Born by Jet. Number 3, Absolution by Muse. Number 2, Transatlanticism, the great prog rock album by Death Cab for Cutie. And number 1, Shootin' by the Eels, a hootenanny with guns.
Pew, pew.
And my top 5, number 5, we had 20 Something by Jamie Cullum. Number 4, Worldwide by Audio Adrenaline. Number 3, Who We Are Instead by Jars of Clay. Number 2, Last Epic by ACT. And number 1, The Beautiful Letdown by Switchfoot.
Man, what a great year.
Truly,
I was so excited to talk about it, and I was like nervous. I hope I didn't botch it too bad.
I think
like you get so excited to talk about something and then you feel like you blew it. I hope I did justice to how awesome I think all these albums are.
I think you did. I think you did an excellent job. I know for a fact that I blew it with Last Epic by ACT. It's too hard. Too hard.
You can't get them all. 1 for 5 or 4 for 5 is pretty solid.
Well, guys, thanks so much for listening to the 2003 edition of this series of Blue Turnip's Bad podcast about good music that we're doing. You can tune in a couple weeks for our next episode when we'll talk about our top 5 albums from the year 2004, and we'll discuss deluxe albums and why they shouldn't be a thing. So tune in if you want to rage out about something that no one else in the world has ever raged out about.
It'll be fun, man. And I like to do a little tease, as I've been doing. This was my favorite year in music. 2004 was my least favorite. So I'm sure people will be excited to see what barely made my list.
Wow, man, I'm surprised. I remember you emailed that to me when we were sending our list back and forth. I love 2004. I'm really excited.
I struggled with 2004.
Mm.
I found some stuff though.
For me, it's 2007 was a tough one. So we'll see when we get there. But I found it took a lot of digging, but I found 5 that I really like. But it'll be a funny year because it's all over the place. It goes from like the most mellow of acoustic folk to the metalist of metal. So
see the bad years make you dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
And find some more far out stuff. So yeah, it'll be a good time.
Yeah. Well, guys, faithful Blue Turnip fans, or just fans of music in general, thanks so much for tuning in. We're so glad that you listened with us today. We have a blast doing this. Hopefully it's fun for you. Check out the links below in the description. We got a link to Brian's song, A Lack of Sleep, I'd say, from our EP songs from the Cellar. And we've got a link to all of the tracks, or not all of, but samples from all of the albums that we talked about in our top 5 countdowns today.
That's right. Was a blast, man.
Yeah, man. All right. Signing off. See you next time, everybody.
See ya.